have no clue what I'm doing in this podcast. So, I think that's something that people want to hear before they start watching a podcast. Let's go! Hi guys, today we're talking with the stars. If you're listening to this through Spotify, it's good to hear from you again, and if you're seeing this from YouTube, it's good to see you again. I am your host for today, Nina, and I've started a podcast. It's a little strange to me because I've never done any of these sort of talking topic type things, and sorry, I just immediately whacked the mic. So let's see how this goes. I feel like this setup is going to sort of in a way change in the future if this podcast thing is something that I really enjoy. I feel like because I talk a lot on my TikToks and whatnot, it makes sense that eventually I would start a podcast. So for the people who saw that coming, that's pretty sick. If you didn't see this coming, that's okay, honestly, because I do not it's not really the end of the world. So got Talking with the Stars. We've got our little co-guest, Spirit, who comes every single time at a podcast, because Spirit is not only my little spirit animal, they're also my little emotional support animal. And of course, Spirit is my spirit. So if you don't think he's my spirit, that's a little strange. Or if you disagree with Spirit, get out of this podcast. I've been wanting to do a podcast, honestly, for quite a while now. So I'm very happy that I finally got the chance to do it. Finally got the mic to set it up. Finally got Spirit with me, my little pal, my little bro. That's pretty insane. So I guess let's just hop straight into it for the topic today, because unfortunately the topic is not simply just me talking and stuff while I just kind of vibe. Sadly, that is not what I'm going to be doing. What I'm actually going to be doing today is talking about a little something to wrap up this month. Yay! Yep, so if you don't know, I'm recording this during June. This will hopefully be posted in June. And I'm doing a little podcast to actually wrap up the cute little Pride month this month. I usually on my accounts post something at the beginning of Pride month to be welcome to Pride month. But I think I wanted to sort of change that this year, only because I feel like everyone posts at the beginning of Pride month, so I would rather post at the end of Pride month just to sort of wrap up this month. And yeah, I am whacking this mic so much. This is going to be amazing. So what have I been doing this Pride month? Obviously being gay, but I do that all year round, so don't know if that's really shocking to anyone here. I did get a chance actually to do a Pride event at my school this year. Now, last year at my school, we did a little big live performance and whatnot, and it was pretty insane. And we got to do it in the hall. We decorated the hall with a bunch of Pride flags, and that's pretty cool. It was definitely a lot more closer towards having Pride be such a big thing to celebrate and woo, yeah, and that's what we want to do every year. We want to make sure that Pride month is known, and we want to make sure that it's that people do celebrate it, and people are yes, this is Pride month, and we're inclusive and everything. It's just that I feel live performances can definitely be very jarring, especially to those who are quite sensitive towards loud noises, flashing lights and whatnot. We didn't have flashing lights. It wasn't big, but it definitely was big in the sense that it was loud. Whenever people would come over to the stalls, they would ask questions, and I literally couldn't make out a single thing that they said, which is definitely a bit jarring to a lot of kids. And it's also a very I feel with Pride events and whatnot, people do get very scared often to enter these sort of spaces because they get the fear of being outed, or the fear of being found out that they're a part of the LGBTQ community. And it's sad that people are scared to sort of come out like this, but of course, you don't always have to be super open about your sexuality and your gender identity. I know that I am definitely like very open about this sort of stuff, but that's a completely different story because I myself am comfortable being super open about this stuff. Not everyone is exactly the same as me, so you can't expect all queer people to be able to be so open and talking constantly about the fact that like they're a proud like homosexual, they're a proud like queer person, a part of the LGBTQ community. And although that would be amazing if we did that, not everyone's like that. And so the event actually got changed quite a bit this year. We weren't allowed a bunch of stuff. Like we weren't allowed to, do like live performances. We couldn't have the hall because we actually had a musical coming up, which is pretty insane. I do really enjoy musicals, but that sort of affected what we could do. So we ended up getting moved outside this little artificial grass area, and I ended up sort of stepping back and reflecting on why is it that like every year at school when I got the chance I wanted to host a pride event. And it's not because I enjoy like the really flashy like whoa loud things. It's because I enjoy allowing like especially young queer individuals to feel as though that they are accepted and they are like, we hear the struggles and stuff and that this environment is a safe place. And especially because for me, school isn't necessarily the most like safe environment for me, especially with experiences and stuff. And the fact that like me possibly being a part of the LGBTQ community is dangerous for my own safety. It's important that kids like that younger, especially kids younger than me who are still very impressionable, still haven't even worked out life themselves, know that this environment, this ground, like these grounds and all the adults around them fully support them and want to like help them feel safe. And that's when I realized that was what I wanted to do. That's when I ended up changing the way that I wanted to approach this, which I ended up actually making the event super chill, super like not any live performances, just a bunch of really friendly year 12s wanting to be like, hi, like, do you want to learn about the like community? Do you want stickers? We handed out free flags. The flag that I was just waving before was one of the free ones. We used it for the photo booth and I got to take it home because I brought like all the resources and stuff. If you guys remember on my TikTok, I actually made a TikTok to spread awareness about the DVA Foundation and the LGBTQ Domestic Violence like Awareness Day, even though I did a massive oopsies where I posted the wrong video and it didn't even post on the right day. Only TikTok got it posted correctly and it wasn't even the right video. It was the only like platform where it managed to get up on the 28th of May. That DVA Foundation, when I went to the morning tea, I actually asked them if I could get resources to hand out at my school. And they were super like, hell yeah, like let's like do that. Like I want to like, spread our name, like let kids know that there is a safe place to go to. Sorry, Mike. There is a safe place to go to and that they have support. So if you don't know what the DVA Foundation is, I would highly suggest that you do try and look into it because it's a super, super helpful like resource or like website. All the volunteers there are very sweet and you can talk to them about anything. They'll either provide you with support or send you to like a place where they know it's like safe to do so. I've kept in contact with one of the volunteers and she was very, very happy when I showed her the photo of when we used the resources. And we also allowed kids for free to take take flags and whatnot. Whoa. Hello? Nah, man. Stop it. Sorry. Probably should have put my phone on silent before I started this. That would have been smart. However, do you like my ringtone? It's quite cute. Yeah, and she was just, I feel like, because she responded very excitedly saying, like, the volunteers, like, this is what we want in order to be able to, like, help, like, continue our, to be able to continue our support and the drive to keep supporting. Because I feel like when there's so much hatred around the community, especially from those who aren't even a part of it, and so like it gets hard to be like, what's the point in even like doing this sort of stuff? But then you remember that they're just the extremely vocal minority. A majority of kids are sitting there staying in silence, suffering because they feel like scared to be able to talk about this sort of stuff. And I think it's important that like places continue to keep their like sort of spark running and continue to like support these like services, like keep these services up, keep supporting like LGBTQ individuals. And I think I really successfully did that at the event that I was holding, especially because of the fact that since I was at the table with all the resources, all the kids would come to me for questions, and being the most like passionate one out of the committee that we had for the school event, I ended up being super, like, I ended up talking to them so much. Like, teachers were watching me and being like, wow. And I was, were talking to me and being like, wow. So, like, yeah, like, were watching me and being like, wow. And I was like, yes, like, this is what I wanted. I don't even care, like, about the people, because, so, of course, some people who are, like, against it came and, like, abused some of the resources by, like, destroying like some of the coloring and stuff that we had, where you could write your preferred name, preferred pronoun, sexuality, and like I'm perfect just the way I am, and then you could like draw yourself either as a blank sheet, or you had like little templates of people and then you could draw yourself in. And of course kids came and abused those resources by writing like USA and like Australian pride and stuff, and like, you know, just the generic like just the generic I don't respect you and I'm not going to be creative in my insult sort of way, because it baffles me about like they're not even creative when they make these insults. Like literally they're never ever creative when like coming up with these like super funny insults and stuff, and it's stop it. But like it's at the same time it's like I don't even care anymore, because like those kids that came up to me to ask me about this sort of stuff and be like educate themselves in like the community, and like asking like, hey, some kids asked about like flags, to be educated in certain like flags and whatnot. Some kid even came up to me and asked me to help them differentiate whether they were bisexual or a lesbian, and that was that was such an amazing thing too. And I even got on the topic of like romanticism and sexuality. So if you don't know, like when you give yourself like a label as to what like your like attraction wise, there's actually two attractions now that you can pick from, like that you sort of can separate. So sometimes people will just have one label because both sexually and like intimately and affectionately are attracted to the same like sort of like demographic or the same gender or whatever. However, there are some people that actually romantically are attracted to like, maybe for example you might be pan-romantic, which like romantically you don't necessarily romantically you don't necessarily see gender, you just see like personality and stuff. However, you like intimately wise, you may feel as though you can only feel sexual attraction to, let's say for example, females. Like it's just sort of like that. It's just sort of that thing where it's like it's quite like, you don't know, because you can't, I feel like with human like attraction and affection and whatnot, you never necessarily know, like you can't fit yourself into one thing. I feel like one label isn't enough. Like I even know that, or like I even think that in the future I might realize that I'm not necessarily like that, maybe lesbian isn't the right label. However, I do just stick with lesbian because I know for a fact that I'm attracted to females intimately, and I think I think affection wise, yes, definitely females. Yeah, so lesbian, but who knows? Yeah, so I think, but I am very passionate, like I am very like confident and comfortable with that label, so I feel like that label wouldn't change. But I am aware that people may like discover something about themselves and then go like, you know what, actually this might be my label. I know one of the most common ones that people may have is either asexual or demisexual, but then they might be like bi-romantic, lesbian romantic, like pan-romantic, even like I used to know one guy who was gay, but emotionally attracted to like men, and then sexuality wise asexual. So it's really comes down to the individual themselves. Like even though I fit into one label, someone might have like multiple labels, because sometimes like it's just hard to sort of explain who you are as an individual, like romantically wise and attraction wise, in just one label, you know? So I actually was super excited when I found out that these things could be separated, because I was like, oh my gosh, like more to discover about myself. And yeah, and when I was explaining it to the girls at my school, they were definitely a bit like, whoa, didn't think of that. So I explained to her that she might be bi-romantic, but sexuality wise a lesbian. Like you don't know, you never know, and you may never know. You might continue, like you might be 60 or something and still confused about your sexuality. And the answer is that, like, the truth is that that's actually 100% okay. You don't have to dive right into it knowing exactly like who you are, what your sexuality is, and things like that. And I am the prime example, because I am the prime example because you like if you've been following me since the very beginning, you would know that I actually used to go by Ashy Cosmic Con, not Mini Cosmic Con. And if that rings a bell in your head, you may know why. On some channels where I've collabed with people, I'm still referred to in the description as like Ashy or Asha or Ash. And the reason for that is because when I first started up this channel, and it started off with like cosplay, you can see in this little video at certain parts, like there we go, I'm cosplaying drag, cosplay drag. That was a lot. But yeah, I actually started this channel after my transition after transitioning from female to male. So I entered the social media platform, put myself out there when I already transitioned, when I already went by Asha, and when I was first discovering all this stuff. However, so when I first came out to my friends as Asha, this was only, the crazy thing too is that I'm currently in year 12 and this all happened in year 11. Yeah, because when in year 7 and stuff, I started actually questioning this sort of thing, like maybe I'm not a girl, maybe I'm a guy and whatnot. And I didn't understand, and I feel like I would have never understand if I never gave myself the opportunity to try. So then I gave myself the opportunity to try, and in year 11 I came out to my friends that I was Asher. Now, I didn't say this to the whole school, I didn't say this to my whole cohort and whatnot, but I did. A lot of them ended up finding out, and I think majority of people at my school, even though I go by Nina now, still call me Asher, only because I feel more comfortable with them calling me it's too much to go out again and be like, oh, by the way, y'all were wrong. I would rather not have to go through that experience again of coming out, because also I just prefer to kind of let it drop into conversation, then people be like, oh yeah, are you Nina, is your preferred name Nina now? And I'm like, yeah, my preferred name is Nina now. Yeah, because I would prefer that, because what I used to do when I would come out to people was I would send a whole paragraph text explaining basically very specifically talk them step by step on how I realized that this is my preferred name, when the real question I should have said was just, can you call me this name now? When I came out to my friends as Nina, or asked them to call me Nina, I literally just dropped it in conversation, oh yeah, by the way, can you call me Nina? I know that a lot of people find such stress in it, so they do make it this big thing, and definitely that's what happened to me, because at first, when I first tried to come out to them as Asher, I had no idea how to word it. I swear I spent a good 10 minutes writing in my notes, autocorrecting everything, being what do I type? What do I say? What do I blah? And Yeah, so I think now it's like it just slips into conversation if I find out something new about myself. And like I said, because I'm very open about it, a lot of my friends are very up to point of like where I am in my discovery. The rest of my like year, not so much, but it, like I said, you don't need to come out to everyone. You don't need to come out to anyone. But yeah, so when I first came out as Asher, my pronouns were he, they. And suddenly out of nowhere, my pronouns just kept constantly changing because I didn't know, like, for some reason sticking with he, they just didn't, like, it fit and also didn't at the same time. Like, I didn't know how how I should, like, pronouns wise, what I should put down, how I, like, what I feel the most comfortable as. So I went like to he, they. I want to do he, him, suddenly jumped to they, them. At one point actually tried she, they. Had someone call me by she, had a full-on crisis, went back to they, them, went back to he, they, tried he, him one more time, and then went back to they, them. So it's definitely quite a journey. And during this process, I ended up actually figuring out that gender was more of a spectrum than just like girl, boy, non-binary. Like, I think like terms like gender fluid, demigirl, demiboy may sound familiar to you. That's because there are so many ways that identity gender-wise you can label yourself as. Like, there was just so much to me, and I thought that was absolutely crazy. And I am very comfortable now with the pronoun she, they. I know technically those pronouns are linked to like a demigirl. However, similar to intimate and like emotional attraction, gender does not equal pronouns. So sometimes people will be like, I am a girl, but they may use they, them pronouns, he, him pronouns. Or I may be a guy, like I'm a guy, but I use they, them pronouns, she, her pronouns. Like, it's, people can like do that as well. And I think at the end of the day, if you just use it and respect that, like, no issues there, no dramas there. And I know it's easier said than done, especially knowing about all the stuff that's going on in like the US, with all like the anti-trans bills being passed. I have been keeping up with that and have heard that Joe Biden is actually on trans kids' side, being like saying that he hears them and he wants to support them. So, definitely hoping that like progresses to a better like future for trans kids. And if you are trans living in the like US, just remember that there is nothing wrong with you, no matter how many conservatives say that like you are mentally like screwed or that there's something wrong with you or you're sick. You are not sick in the slightest. You are finding yourself and you are finding your identity. And sometimes you may be wrong. Like I transitioned and then within 1 year detransitioned back. And it's a learning experience. And I think if you don't take this learning experience, you'll never know. And so it's absolutely amazing, especially for the youth, like that you guys are still standing and still like fighting, and you deserve like, I don't know who the hell decided that they can take away rights from humans. Like, it's just bizarre over there. Like, So I just want you guys to know that you are absolutely amazing. You're doing such a great job still being here. Don't ever forget that. And just keep living life the way that you feel comfortable and like feel as though aligns with you, like gender and sexuality wise. And that goes for everyone across like the world, because I know that it's not just the US. There are a bunch of like parts and like continents in the world that are super against this sort of stuff. No one is sick for realizing that their attraction may not necessarily be just to the opposite binary like gender. Like, I feel like heading into 2023, it's something that even I, as someone a part of the LGBTQ community, am fascinated by this, like, by everything, like, by the way that people, like, have discovered they feel this towards something, they feel that towards something. And I think we're all, like, humans just trying to figure out, like, who we are and, like, sexuality, gender identity, romantic-wise. And I think just let them be. It doesn't affect you. And I feel like the biggest thing of like, you're forcing it on us and like you're oppressing us. No, I'm literally not saying that you have to go and kiss a man at this very second, or like, kiss a woman at this very second as a woman, or kiss a man at this very second as a man. Like, I'm not telling you that you need to do that. I am not forcing anything on you. I am simply, for those a part of the community, saying this is a safe place, like it's okay to be you. And then like you've got your conservatives over here being like, you're oppressing us and things, and like, oh my god, the like it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, because it's always like religion that it links back to. And I can't say too much along that topic because I don't understand myself, like religion and whatnot, and I'll go into that maybe another podcast if I decide to, but I definitely do know that don't I don't know, I guess it's just kind of like, just let them live. You obviously believe in one thing and you have like your morals and like things set. Like, you cannot necessarily, like, you don't have to with full arms be like, yes, I support this. You don't necessarily need to do that. All you need to do is, as a decent and respectful human being, acknowledge that people are going to be like this. Like, sorry, that makes it sound as though it is bad. Sorry, you must acknowledge, like, you have to acknowledge that people will, will realize they're part of the LGBTQ community, and there's nothing that you can do to stop that. And you shouldn't stop that. Like, you don't need to stop that, especially like if you're someone in high power that can set laws to legally make it that you cannot you cannot be free and a part of the LGBTQ community. Like, you cannot do that. And obviously that's just people abusing their power at this point. And as an adult who may have kids, you got to remember that you can't oppress your kids for simply wanting to explore something. Like, it's not a sickness. No one's sick. There's nothing wrong with anyone. They're just simply wanting to understand who they are and wanting to understand, why do I feel a certain way to this sort of why do I feel a certain way towards this person, even though it's not like in like black and white terms, like a man and a woman. Like, why do I feel as though I'm non-binary? Why do I feel like attraction to the same sex as me? Why can't I feel attraction? Like, it's just, everyone is different. Like, if we were all the same, wouldn't that be boring? And like, wouldn't that just we're all human, we're all different, and you just got to be able to respect everyone. And I think that's probably that's the best that we can really do as like a society, as a community, as the human race. That's really the most that we can do. Just be respectful of each other. So anyway, trying to reel back what I've been saying this whole time. So my journey, going back a bit more too, Australian kids maybe might be able to relate to this. Maybe like people around the world have done this as well. I've only heard this as an Australian thing. If you have gone to an Australian primary school, you'd probably be aware of the little hand game where people would go like, there's a party on the hill, would you like to come? If that rang a bell in your head, congratulations, you went to an Australian school. So did I. I hated that game. And you know why? Because as someone with who was the least popular, least amount of friends, liked keeping to herself, everyone loved to pick on me, to be like, oh, like, who's your, because there's a line going like, by the way, what's your like boyfriend or girlfriend's name? And like, they would always cheat the system to make it land on me. Like, I distinctively remember this one part of it where like, basically, we were doing the hand clapping game, and it landed like, it in rhythm landed on the kid next to me, like that. And then she just quickly like just out of nowhere quickly clapped my hand and went, oh, it's you, like, you have to answer it, Nina. And I was like, that was very clearly you. Like, they always cheated the system to make it that I was in, that I had to do the embarrassing thing and whatnot. So I would just say a random guy's name in our year, like, oh, I don't know, like Josh. And like, I didn't understand the actual like weight of saying like a crush and whatnot, especially in primary school, and it was like such a big thing that you had a crush. So every time I'd be like, oh, like Josh, and they would just scream at the loudest, like, Josh will be there blowing kisses. Like, shut up. He's right there. So then like all the guys would look at me and I'd be like, well, damn it. Like now they know. Like now they know this crush that I actually don't have. And getting into year 6, actually, we would still play that Party on the Hill game. And again, for some reason, the year would still try and like taint the system where it would land on me. And at that time, I had a crush on someone. Like I actually had a crush on someone. However, going to a school that never mentioned this sort of stuff, I didn't know how to feel about the fact that the like crush was a female. It was one of the girls in my year. She was an artist, like she was the artist of the year, and like to me, being so good at like creative arts and whatnot is one of the most attractive things to me, because also being someone who loves like creative arts and whatnot, obviously I'm like, yes, like creative arts, let's go. So that was definitely one of the biggest like attractions that I had to her. She was also just a very sweet person, which thinking about it in hindsight, she always took my food. So I don't know if she was the sweetest, but she definitely was a sweet person. And not going to say her name for privacy reasons, but every time I would, the game would be like manipulated that it would land on me, I would say like one of the guys' names in the year that sounded super close to her. And because this was the first time in these sort of games where I kept it as the same name, because I chose the person who was like the closest to her, like her name wise, people started thinking that I actually had like a crush on him and whatnot, when the truth was that I couldn't give any BS about this sort of stuff. And yeah, like the truth was that it was her that I had a crush on, but I can say that because I didn't know what it's like. And especially like coming from schools, like so many like schools where they just don't even dare to touch on like that fact. It's like I didn't know whether what I was experiencing was okay or not. And the truth is that yes, it is very okay. But like, at the time being so young and barely having any sort of queer representation, I didn't know if that was okay to be feeling like this, like to another girl. And then I started slowly embracing it, because in year 7 I had a crush on another person in my year. This one's a bit of a funny story because I was scared to say anything to her. Number one, because again, I didn't know if that was like okay. And number two, like I didn't know if she was like straight herself. Like I didn't know if she was like gay or straight. So I just kind of like kept that to myself, especially because with me, with like crushes, unless it's someone extremely close to me, if I find attraction to someone who's a bit more distant to me and not one of my best friends, I find it extremely hard to be able to properly like talk and be open about this sort of stuff, like to be like openly be like, hey, I like you. And yeah, so I ended up keeping that crush to myself, and halfway through the year of I had a crush on her until I think year 8. And halfway through year 8, she got a girlfriend. And I was like, God damn it, that should have been me. I was so upset. I was like, no. It was another girl in our year. And honestly, they were very like cute together. They were a match made for each other, and that was amazing. But the absolute, like, you can feel the pain of when you restrict yourself from being open to someone because you're worried that that your attraction doesn't line up, and then you find out that it perfectly lined up and now they're taken. Yeah, and now I'm just like, if I like someone, just go for it and see what happens. And yeah, but like I never even dared to act on any of these sort of like feelings and whatnot, because I didn't know that it was like okay to feel this way. And coming back to the event that I hosted, because I hosted one, like basically for the time that I've been at my like newest school, I've been trying to host like these events. In year 10 when I first came, they hosted one. I was like, sorry, you can do this. And then like just up until like now, I kept like hosting anything that was like related to like the LGBTQ community. And you can tell based on my content that I am very passionate about this sort of stuff. The queer community, and also mental health and like physical health as well. I do want to make a lot more content around physical health, but definitely mental health and the community is one of the biggest things that you'll see on my account. And like, if you couldn't tell about the queer community because you haven't seen my videos about it, you would probably have seen the little like summary videos that I make, and also my drag content. I feel like that's an obvious one. Yeah. And year 10 was actually when I started really embracing it and actually starting to like sort of be like, is this correct? Like in labeling myself queer, does this like, have I finally gotten to the bottom of why I'm liking like women when I've been told like not to? And so, because I feel like the school that I go to now is a lot more accepting of this sort of stuff. That it's not like in your face. Like for anyone who's like, oh no, like blah, blah, like it's not very like they don't have any like displays up like the big queer flag and things like that, even though that would be absolutely amazing. But it's definitely like they are in support of it. And if you decide that you want to have like one of these events, they will totally be like, hell yeah. But because they're such a busy, prestigious school, of course, their main concern is like academics and stuff. So that's sort of what they prioritize first, academics, but they still definitely prioritize these sort of things, which raise awareness about like safety and whatnot. And I think by having those resources, it really enforce like the fact that it is like safe grounds for you to be open about who you are. So when I started realizing that this school was open about this sort of stuff and I could talk to people about it, like I know one of our like head of well-being and stuff like that, I don't know if she's still there, but I do remember she introduced herself and said that she's very competent and has experience about working with kids that are part of the LGBTQ community and have like any sort of struggles or problems with that. So that was quite amazing. And having all of that support behind me and being like, so this is okay. I ended up slowly starting to discover myself a little bit more and be super like, be super open about it. And that's when I started my journey, like actually talking about my journey with all my friends. The first thing that I sort of thought was correct was labeling myself as bi-gender and bisexual. So bisexual is being so by labeling myself as just bisexual, it meant romantically and intimately I am attracted to men and female. And I know also that non-binary comes into the picture as well. But bisexuality means attracted to more than one gender, but having like a preference sort of thing. I know that gets mistaken with pansexual, and I think the main difference is pansexual, there is no like preferences for gender. Bisexual is you're attracted to more than one gender, typically labeled as male and female, but there is a preference in that picture. So that's why people are like, but you're dating someone who's non-binary, how are you bi-gender? Because there's a preference within like gender, how they feel, like attractive wise to that person. Yep. And then bi-gender is, I believe that I was not, when I say in the middle, not non-binary. So in the middle of being a male and a female, but I fit within that binary scale. Well, like I fit within those two the binary like genders. And then obviously like non-binary is like things like gender fluid, non-binary, agender and whatnot. Yep, so that was where it went to. Then I changed to I discovered I seem to be very attracted to like females, and so I was a bigender lesbian. Lesbian woman, like girl attracted to girls, so like women love women, like the WLW, you'll see that hashtag a lot in like lesbian posts and whatnot. This also, keep in mind when I said that pronouns do not equal to gender, like someone may be they them but still a lesbian because they are a female who is attracted to other females and whatnot. Yeah, so sometimes labels don't necessarily fit the best. Like, it doesn't completely define you and go like, oh my god, this makes sense. But it's like sometimes people will make do the best they can to be able to perfectly label themselves. And after that, when I first came out as Asher, I labeled myself as a straight demi boy. I did end up very like close afterwards, just sticking with male and then having my pronouns be like the he, they, like demi boy, like, yeah. Only because for me, I felt definitely like a male. And for the longest time, like that happened for the longest time, straight male. I know, straight male. And then that's when it started jumping around, and I actually just labeled myself as queer and stopped there. I didn't really want to label myself any more or any less, just like in fear that maybe like, I'm like not sure where I'm going with this. So I just stopped at queer and did not specify both gender and sexuality. With gender, okay, even though I just said I didn't specify, I did technically specify, but not necessarily in the way that you would think. So I actually labeled myself as agender. And if you don't know what agender is, it's someone who does not like no gender, not at all, just wants to feel as a shell of a person. And that's what I felt. I felt as though I was simply just a person that existed, and I didn't want a gender labeled on me. And I think that's that was the best thing for me at the time. Then after some discovering, it was very easy to stick with queer and agender. And then finally I returned back to, like, I ended up going full circle back to realizing my sexuality was a lesbian, because I realized that attraction towards males was just simply wanting to be their like best friend and their bro, whereas females, that attraction was definitely something that could blossom more into something that was not just that's not simply just like a friendship, like could be more, could be romantic. And yeah, and then after thinking about my gender, I finally got comfortable going back to female. And there's a big story behind all this as to like why I transitioned, why I went crazy with my transition and then like returned back. But that's something that I won't really talk about in this video, in this podcast, I mean. So yeah. But that was definitely a really big and good experience, because it allowed me to fully like understand what how I'm feeling. And I even like learned so much along the way. Like I learned so much about sexuality and gender identity that it's not even funny at this point anymore. Like it was a big education thing, and I want to share that education with other people as well, which is why my content moved from simply just cosplaying and just wanting to look pretty and nice in costumes to wanting to actually educate people who are interested in whatnot. Yeah, but I still keep that like cosplay and that drag content, but I don't do it as much anymore. And I also don't do it like in terms of like I just buy a bunch of cosplays and then I like cosplay, because I don't like, a lot of the cosplays that I would buy weren't even characters that I wanted to cosplay. They were just like trending, I guess, at the time. And then finally I decided to just nail it down and keep the cosplays that I wanted, which is like, like Splatoon, Murder Drones, what else? Hatsune Miku also. That was a very special experience for me, being able to finally cosplay Hatsune Miku after so long of waiting. But yeah, and now I just talk more. And obviously, again, that's why I started a podcast, because that's my content. I talk and I don't stop, and Spirit has to sit there and listen. And I love Spirit. Hi, Bubby. Hi, kitty. This in terms of like figuring out like their like homosexuality or the queerness, and realizing, oh, I might not necessarily be straight. I don't know like if you guys have any funny stories, but I definitely have quite a bunch of funny stories. Yeah, no, I've had many incidences where I look back on it and I realize, hey, I should have probably thought something sooner. So let's talk about that. So starting off, with my favorite story that I love to tell people, because this only came into my mind very recently and I got so upset when I realized that I forgot about this. So when I was younger, my sister and I loved Barbie dolls because of course we did. Why not? Like she was on display, she was on the shelves, and me and my sister would be like, "Gimme!" So we ended up we would play, we had this big dollhouse because I asked for Christmas. I was like, I really want the big dollhouse, and then we got the really big dollhouse. So we had this dollhouse. We had all of these dolls that we wanted to play with, and this was when we started approaching that age of learning about the romance and the romantic between adults and things like that, and even the intimate course, that sort of stuff. So, and as kids, because you're so curious about it, you find every single excuse to remake that sort of stuff. So my sister and I would play with our dolls, and we would make them date each other. And yeah, and at one point, we had about, I would say 10 Barbie dolls. We had quite a bunch of them. The drawers, if you know the IKEA beds with the drawers underneath, that thing was just full of Barbie dolls. That's how many we had. But at the time of playing in the dollhouse, because we didn't keep the dollhouse when we moved, but in our in an old apartment that me and my sister had, we had this dollhouse, and we only had 10 Barbie dolls and 2 Ken dolls. Both of them came in these little date sets, because of course when you have Barbie and you establish and you associate her with dates, you need Ken somewhere in that in that picture. And I don't know if you guys have kept up with Barbie now, but Barbie and Ken are actually best friends. I think in the new Barbie movie they seem to be he seems to be of a love interest again, but I don't know. I haven't watched the Barbie movie. However, with if you go onto the YouTube channel where they do the motion capture Barbie videos, where it's just little challenges and stuff, Ken and Barbie are not actually canonically dating anymore. They've made it now that Barbie and Ken are friends, and you can interpret it as romance, but it's not specified that it is. And I think that's honestly amazing, because I can see Barbie and Ken as friends. I can't see I feel like Barbie is just that person where it's when you see her with Ken, it's just, you may as well be alone at that point. She's literally done and is everything, and she's settling in for a guy who's just sitting there being hi Barbie. It's literally he is not the love of your life. He's literally just a guy. Hit him with your car. Sorry, Chrissy is one of my idols. Oh, and I'm gonna talk about her later, actually. Yeah. So, what was I saying again? Yes, Barbie doll story. So yeah, we were playing with we had 10 Barbies, 2 Kens, both this date set sort of thing. So they were made to try and look as attractive as possible. Now, me and my sister, getting ready to make them all date each other. I asked her, I was like, who should we make? Date, which one of the girls should date the Ken dolls? And my sister just turns to me and just has this bright idea, and she's like, what if we just make all the girls date each other? Because Ken's kind of ugly, to be honest. And honestly, fair, Ken is quite an unattractive at least the dolls, I would say, to me, as a very biased lesbian, the Ken dolls were not attractive in the slightest, especially the ones where the hair was a bowl cut. I could not deal with those Kens. I was no. And I owned one of them, and I was no. So we took the Kens, and we we made all the Barbies date each other. So I look at the Kens, and I'm like, yo, should we just make the Kens date each other? And I just watch my sister just very slowly pick up these Ken dolls and then slip them into a box and go, I don't think the woman would, I don't think the girls would notice if they were gone. And I was like, fair. So we just, the main indicator that maybe I'm not the straightest person alive should have been the fact that I was so content with my sister making all the girls date each other. And I was like, yeah, let's go lesbians. So that was a fun experience. And we did that quite a lot. We didn't actually make any of the guys date each other. We made all the girls date each other. Even when we started, like, reenacting our dolls for, like, sexual intercourse, we still made the girls do it to each other. We never let the guys touch the girls. And honestly, label it as, like, misogyny or, like, whatever, like, feminism, but, like, I want to kill men sort of feminism. Like, when it, like, exceeds the line of feminism and it's now just I will kill men, like that sort of line. Like, you can label it as that. I think it should have been my queer awakening, and I think it's just two innocent people just playing with dolls that one of them happens to be homosexual. Like, my sister, I don't know, like, her sexuality. She doesn't, like, she hasn't specified it to me, and like that's completely okay, because like I know her partner is like non-binary and openly non-binary, and honestly, like that's pretty chill. Like, I'm obviously, as someone who's a lesbian, I'm not gonna be like, no, no, no. They're a very sweet person, and I love them to like bits, and I love them to death. Like, well, when I say love them, I mean like they're a sweet person, not love them as in like give me your partner, obviously. But yeah, so like, for all I know, she could be like pansexual or whatnot, and she hasn't specified it to me. And this is when I say that it's like super important to and it's super okay to not necessarily be so open about this. Like, maybe people might find out, when you have the partner, but like, they don't need to know the second that you realize it, what it is. They might never even know. Like, I might have people that I never tell, like, where I never end up telling them that I'm queer or like my gender identity or anything like that. And that's completely okay, because not everyone needs to know that sort of stuff, and not everyone sometimes not everyone deserves to know that. So I think it's important that you understand who is someone that's important to you that should know this stuff, and then be open to them. And as for everyone else, if they find out, they find out, they find out. If they don't, that's completely okay too. Never feel guilty, especially if there's someone that's like a part of family, but that they're openly like hatred towards like the community and stuff. Never feel guilty if you decide that you don't want to tell them. And I think that's perfectly okay. And by think, I mean I know that that's perfectly okay, and that's like the way that you should be thinking with like anything. If you don't feel comfortable opening about it, you don't have to open about it. And if you feel comfortable opening about it, you can open about it. But of course, there's certain things, like for example, the DVA Foundation are very open, they sort of encourage you to be open if you're experiencing like domestic violence and whatnot, because of the fact that you're like a part of the LGBTQ community. And that's when it's like you should be encouraged to be open. But for actually being a part of the community, you don't have to be open if it makes you feel more comfortable just kind of keeping it to yourself. It doesn't matter. It's just, all you need to do is be proud of yourself, and like, if it's just you being proud, that's okay. If it's other people being proud like alongside you, that's perfectly fine too. And like, honestly, I feel like that's better experience wise, to be able to have people to fall back on and talk to about this stuff, if you if you can. If you can't, then there's like services and stuff that you can call up and be able to talk to them about it. So there's always someone to talk to. Don't feel as though you're alone. I know with the internet, it's more accessible for people to jump on and be like, hey guys, like I'm feeling this way, and then everyone can pitch in and give their like response and stuff like that. And although it's definitely a helpful thing, I wouldn't say to make that your first place to go. Definitely try and find someone who's either someone who's sort of like a professional within this field, talking to like services like LGBTQ and queer services, or talking to like friends if you can, teachers, teachers are maybe not all teachers. Just someone who's in person and you can trust is definitely easier, or like parents if you can, with parents, or if you can with siblings. So just, there's always going to be someone out there. Don't feel like you're alone. There's 8 billion people on this planet. Surely there is someone out there who is willing to listen to you, and if not, I'll listen to you. why not? Because I truly care about everyone being comfortable with like talking about this sort of stuff. And I think like if you can't talk about this sort of stuff, it's okay to be able to communicate it to maybe people that like you like inspire you to be open about this like one, you know, this sort of stuff. And I hope I can like inspire kids to be able to also be open about themselves, sexuality and gender identity wise. And I feel like I have achieved that. Going back to the Pride event, I actually had kids who tried to get in contact with the head girls in our school to be able to like host another event next year for like Pride. And I was like, that's quick. It only just finished. What are you talking about? There was another kid that wanted to like plan something else. But the point is that it's inspiring in a sense that you can take action, you can take control, and you can present, like you can be able to go to the teachers and be like, I want to present this thing to the school that I'm super passionate about. And for me, that's definitely the LGBTQ community, mental health, like awareness stuff. And it's amazing to be able to see that there are kids like learning off of that. And I think that's important that you're able to also be able to at least try and bounce that like positivity, excitement and stuff onto other people. Now, the big thing that I want to talk about. Who was it in my life that really opened my eyes? So now, the fact like with my label of like female and lesbian, like I'm a girl and I'm a like proud lesbian and stuff. Who was the one that opened my eyes and made me realize this is actually like who I am, like you know, like sexuality, gender identity wise. And I do not remember her last name, but if Chrissy rings a bell in your head or rings a couple of people, like come to mind a couple of people, you may then be able to picture her singles or like her music, I'm So Hot and Alpha. And oh my god, the new one that's coming out, unfortunately, because I'm trying to like make this with like limited swear words, I can't say the, like when I say limited, I mean like hopefully none. But I sadly can't say the title, but the point is that she is pretty much like the 2023, like the Gen Z Lady Gaga. She's absolutely amazing. And her like content is meant to be all about like, you know, spreading this sort of like vibe of like, you're amazing, you're hot, you're perfect just the way you are. And if you're queer and if you're like, you know, and she was the one that started like bimbo TikTok, if you guys remember that. She is the reason why I'm so like proud to call myself a bimbo, because yeah, I know bimbo is associated with like being dumb and stupid, but if that means that I am in some, like if that means that you call me a bimbo and that's linked towards Chrissy, that is the biggest compliment, the biggest juiciest compliment you could ever give me. Then hell yeah, I'm a bimbo. Chrissy definitely was my inspiration in starting my like content and my move, like my shift from cosplay into these sort of videos that are just meant to be like positivity and whatnot. And yeah, however, something that sort of varied within that was that Chrissy had this sort of like we all, like if you know Chrissy, you know that she has this sort of like gorgeous, beautiful like personality towards her that makes her really entertaining, and like is that like you think about it and you're like, oh my god, like she's so hot and so perfect. And even though I sort of feel as though I have a similar personality to her, because my content was based more around talking about very difficult topics of mental health to tackle, it didn't fit to be like, you know, to have that sort of like bimbo like personality and whatnot. And I still have that bubbly like bimbo personality, like you can tell right now. But it's just like obviously when I get more serious, that conversation starts, like that sort of way that I talk starts to drop. And it's very similar to her as well. She then starts to become a lot more serious, like when she's talking about like things that people like tend to like worry about and are very like scared about. And yeah, no, she has a very, very distinctive voice. So, like, if you heard Chrissy's voice, you would, like, even when she's, like, the most serious that she can, she still has such a distinctive voice. And that was sort of what I wanted to do as well, where I have, like, a distinctive, like, voice, and, like, I talk about very serious stuff. I talk about, like, you know, being proud of yourself, being a part of the LGBTQ, like, community and whatnot. And that's what she is. Like, her thing is all about just women love yourself, gay people love yourself, and like just positivity to the people that have less power. So I think she basically hits every single demographic except for like heterosexual men who wear nothing but khakis and polo shirts. Like, that's pretty much the only demographic that she can't hit. And the funny thing is that they are the vocal minority, which really brings to light the idea that just sometimes people are just like, you can't with them, because like they're sitting here being like, oh, you're being like so like stupid and stuff, like, you know, like, what are you doing, like being so vocal about this sort of stuff, when the truth is that Chrissy is doing an amazing thing, and you're just like sitting there behind a screen, like, you know, anonymously like messaging like her being like, oh, like da 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 whatnot. And that's the whole point of her Alpha song. And then like I'm So Hot is meant to like sort of help women to feel comfortable and like love themselves, essentially. Like, and you also go like, yes, I am so hot. And I feel like seeing that such like someone being so proud to be a woman who loves other women, that's when I realized that's who I am, that's who I want to be, and that's my gender and sexuality. So it really took one random TikToker like to show up on my For You page to make me understand who I truly was. And I thank both the TikTok algorithm and Chrissy for just showing up on my For You page and just like existing. But like, again, it's that being able to inspire people to be open about themselves and do all these things that you want. And like, I hope to in the future be able to do the same thing. And like, yeah, I just make such a beautiful difference within like people's lives, and just make so many awesome, like, just make a difference in people's life, be an inspiration, like to be able to mentally feel okay, be able to take care of yourself, to feel okay, like in like developing and like further understanding who you are identity and sexuality wise. And that's just who I like, that's what I want to leave as my print on social media. Like, yes, cosplay was fun and drag is fun, but I want to do so much more than just simply like dressing up and being this persona. I want to be an inspiration. And then on the side of that, it's like, oh, and like you're also this. And that's where like Verenity sort of came in. Verenity was meant to embody that I'm so hot persona. That's the whole reason that Verenity is who she is. She's a very proud lesbian who's like who's just so in love with herself, and she's essentially me but personified and pushed visually even further to represent that. And like her color scheme, I know that when I went to Drag Expo, her outfit changed because it was quite cold. Like my little leggies were a bit cold, but like with her like original color scheme, it's meant to embody that, because you have the sort of yellow orangish color, you have the pink color, and you have the white color, obviously to represent the fact that she's a lesbian. And I think that was honestly one of the best decisions that I made to move from cosplay to drag. And of course I still do cosplay, because a lot of my friends that I've met through cosplay are like one of my like best friends and closest friends. But also like, you know, the shift to drag helped me really be able to express myself, sexuality and gender identity like wise, so much more than cosplay. And I think that like this was just my journey in being able to talk about, like, to be able to fully open up. And like obviously a lot of trial and error, didn't get it right the first time, but no one does. And I think it's so important to allow yourself to be able to at least just acknowledge it, read into it, and then like reflect on it. Is this, maybe I'm a part of the community too, maybe I'm not, maybe like I want to be an ally, or like I am an ally and I support this, maybe you don't support this, or like you think that it's completely like anarchy, I tell you. But I think at the end of the day, allowing yourself to at least be informed and educated is one of the strongest and most important things that you can do for both yourself and those who are a part of the community. And like, if you at least allow yourself to get that education, you're already doing a lot for those who are a part of the community and really like struggle and need your like help. And well, I guess you're already doing like, technically being able to just respect us and see us as humans is like the bare minimum, not a lot. Like, for me to be able to just see you as a human for being straight, like it's the bare minimum. But like, to support, like, if you also want to support and things like that by like, understanding like the community more, following content creators who are like openly queer and whatnot, it's just super important to be able to like at least educate yourself and not feel as though that like, and not be able to alienate those who are part of the community or see those people as like mentally ill. I feel like that's the most ignorant thing you can think of when you like think of the community, to see queer people and to see us as mentally ill or mentally unstable for realizing that we don't fit that like typical relationship is pure ignorance. It's simply just you not wanting to educate yourself. And if you find yourself thinking that way and you don't want to be ignorant, or you don't want to like be seen as like, a homophobe conservative that is like joked around about all over the internet, just allow yourself to educate yourself. You can check on like articles. A lot of like content creators make information about this. Even I do so as well. So if you want to like learn about it, you can learn about it. And I think it's super important, and it's amazing if you decide that you want to like, if you were once someone who was super against this and then find yourself either an ally or part of it. It's just, that's the whole thing. You explore and you see how this works and how everything like folds together and whatnot, and how it like comes together. And if you can like allow yourself to do that, then that's absolutely amazing. And you've allowed yourself to like enter and open in this new world and find a piece of you that maybe you thought didn't even exist, and here you go, now it's here. And I think that's a great way, and I think this is a great way to sort of wrap up for me the Pride event. Just be able to talk about like my journey, talk about everything that's happened this month, and just be super open about everything, and allow you guys to know that it is okay to be super open about it yourself. And I think that's going to wrap it up for this podcast. Yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say. I hope I did well on my first podcast, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you're listening to this on Spotify, thank you so much for watching. You can follow my Spotify account to keep up to date with new to new releases of this like podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, thanks so much for coming and seeing me and like just listening to this podcast. And thanks for joining me and talking to the stars, where we just kind of let our mind wander, and anything that's clinging onto ourselves, like onto our brains, we just release. And yeah. Thanks, guys. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.